having me. The CD is part of a project I've been doing with my friend Matt Davignon called OA, and it's an experimental music-based working entirely out of voice. And it emerged from the project of how to do a poetry read without opening your mouth. So it's a lot of fun, and I hope you'll pick up a copy. Speaking of music, so I'm going to be reading poems from a chapbook that will be coming out in a week or two called The Sound of Music. And it's based on exploring the musical, The Sound of Music, and taking it in various directions and just having fun with it a little bit. So the poems don't necessarily have titles, and I'm just going to jump right in. In the 70s, when this country was less hierarchical, the inmates of the California Institute for Women in Frontera were invited to stage The Sound of Music. When asked why hardened criminals would want to sing and dance in musicals, the warden replied that even in the least progressive of prisons, there must be moments of happiness. Every performance ended not with an escape into the mountains, but with the warden escorting the inmate playing Maria and the children to the gates of the prison. The air smelled of dairy cattle, and a bus sat with the engine idling to deliver them into the arms of their parole officers. Everyone sang. After the do-re-mi sequence, Brigitte, the fifth Von Trapp child, who is often depicted as reading, had trouble sleeping. She dreams she is surrounded by armies. The war approaches, but a blue god appears, and he calmly turns the soldiers into gentlemen and pilgrims, their weapons into flowers and musical instruments. Will you be my bride, he asks Brigitte. He is so enormous and gentle. She says yes. She sees blue everywhere and is consumed with love. The next morning at breakfast, she approaches Maria and says, "Now that I know the notes with which to sing, I have decided to renounce this household and its false gods of discipline and Christianity. From this point forward, I will love only Krishna, and I will sing my love for him for as long as I draw breath." Louisa, feeling betrayed, fills her sister's bed with spiders that night. But when Brigitte turns back the covers, they have all turned into rose petals. Her sisters and brothers take all the hundreds of Sanskrit translations from their father's library out into the field to burn, and they force the serene Brigitte to watch. But when the fire is lit, her siblings are transformed into cattle. While transformed, the children experience inexplicable bliss. Brigitte takes her time returning the cattle to the house, where they turn into boys and girls. Years later, Kurt sighs, "If only once more I could be a cow." And so he devotes himself to the smoking of opium. When her family flees towards Switzerland, she travels east. She is never cold, she is never hungry. If there are mountains, they are lifted to let her through. What goes unquestioned is not how Maria, with little formal training, could in a matter of weeks transform the 7 Von Trapp children into virtuoso vocalists, but whether she was unique. She was not. She was but one of many postulants, each with a different passion, sent forth from the abbey to work as governesses to large families, the children of which would suddenly become brilliant practitioners in such skills as mechanical engineering, industrial design, mumbledy-peg, sumo wrestling, plein air painting, ninjutsu, hairdressing, lion taming, atomic physics, etc. All the same pattern: the introduction, the curtains as clothes, the delight, the easy mastery of a skill under the guise of play, the estrangement from the world, the flight across the mountains. At times, the children of the different families would battle. Buildings would fall and be rebuilt overnight, the sound of elephants commingling with heartbreaking bird calls. The moon shines with city lights, and all clocks everywhere increasingly become more accurate. The Swiss prosper. The war never ends. One day the Pope sends his emissary to Salzburg to find out what is the cause of these disturbances. But he can never find the abbey. It's right there, the neighbors tell him, but all he sees is a blank stone wall. He cries out, but no one hears him, so he hires the most innocent of children to bring the abbess to his room. When she arrives, he only sees the child and thinks there must be a trick, that Austrians are wolves, and that Salzburg is mostly fictional. The town records show Nonnberg Alley has been closed for decades. The abbess stands in front of him, knowing the Monsignor cannot see her or hear anything of what she has to tell him. She tries to explain, but it is like she is in heaven already and can only communicate in miracles. So this one's a mashup between The Sound of Music and Batman. And involves the Baroness Elsa von Schrader, who was the woman who was discarded by Georg von Trapp for Maria. She does not take it lying down. It also involves the father of Batman, Thomas Wayne. The Baroness Elsa von Schrader, after breaking off her engagement to Georg, used her title, money, and connections to raise award-winning vampire bats and to help Jews in their escape from Austria. Dying of boredom in the winter of 1945, she met the noted Gotham City industrialist Thomas Wayne on the slopes of St. Moritz. "Do you like music?" Wayne asked her. And she replied, "I despise it." "Well, do you like bats?" Wayne asked. And she said, "Oh, honey, let me take you to my underground lair." In the theater during the premiere, Debbie Turner turns to Julie Andrews and asks her why so many songs in the movie had to be played twice. "It's called a reprise," Julie tells her. When something happens, you don't want to remember it just once and forget it. You want to keep thinking about it. Each time you keep thinking about it, your memory becomes softer and sweeter until all you have in your head is happiness. When you hear a song the second time, it's telling you it's time to be happy. Debbie says, "But we had to sing those songs over and over and over and over. None of us were happy. We just tried to sing and act well enough so that they'd stop yelling at us all the time." Julie grabbed her arm. "Don't you dare tell anyone that. No one likes to know how things really happened. They'd never be happy if they did. Just think about the reprise," she says. "The reprise that never ends until you're finally happy," she says. Or else. I'll read two more. After the war, Rolf, like everyone he knows, never mentions what he did during the war. What happened with the Von Trapps was but the first and smallest of many terrible things. But when he hears the family's back in Salzburg on tour, he sends a note backstage and meets with Liesel at a cafe. Over tiny glasses of champagne, she studies his face and cannot find any guilt or remorse, which bothers her because it is exactly the same with everyone she meets in Austria. "You hide well," she tells him, and he smiles a little, only as far as he'd permit himself. "I'm 31, going on 32, he says. "I'm a landscape architect now with my own firm." "Landscape architect?" Liesel laughs. "I thought you'd be a postal worker or a spy, what with your love of delivering messages." "In a way it's the same," Rolf says. "The land wants gardens, it tells me what to do, and I pass along the secrets it wants me to convey. If I'm lucky, it also wants a gazebo." "A gazebo," Liesel says. "I'm renowned for my gazebos," Rolf says. "The last time I ever experienced joy was when I danced with you and your fathers all those years ago." After Maria finishes singing My Favorite Things, the children pause. "I like this song very much," Louisa says, "but I think it would sound a lot better if it were more loosely rhythmic, in waltz time." "With modal patterns," Friedrich adds excitedly, "we could stretch it out and really improvise." "Let's stay up all night and jam," shouts Brigitte.
Captain Von Trapp stands in the doorway. Bedtime is to be strictly observed. I don't want to live in Austria in the 1930s singing show tunes anymore, Martha cries. I want to be John Coltrane. I'm tired of being afraid of thunderstorms. I want to be John Coltrane too, Kurt shouts. Me too, John Coltrane, John Coltrane, John Coltrane. The children are jumping up and down on the bed. The first rule of this house is discipline, Von Trapp warns. But Gretel grabs her father's sleeve. No, the first rule of music is that we will give everything we have, and you will never know what will happen. I want to be McCoy Tyner, Gretel says. I'm going to stay up as late as I can. Thank you.